Hello everyone, today I want to share with you my thoughts on Master Books Language Level 1 curriculum. We just finished the book the other day and I don't have the book in front of me. I have the last lesson. I decided last year that I was going to buy a lot of Master Books curriculum for my kids because I wanted to see if it was worth investing in a Christian homeschool curriculum. And so we decided to go with this book as well as other curriculum. And so I'm going to tell you the pros and the cons. I think that we are not going to get the next level of Master Books language. My daughter now is in 2nd grade, so she finished up her 1st grade book. But you know what? I say that with a maybe. This curriculum, it's good, and at the same time, it's like I'm torn because I have other books I want for those things to be a part of our homeschooling. My experience with this curriculum was that I think that they covered what is required in the standards. And I know that homeschooling parents are not required to follow along the standards, but I tend to like to see what other students are learning. And I like to make sure that my kids, they're not missing anything in our own custom-made homeschooling. So because I have read what they needed to learn according to the standards, as we were going through this book, I noticed, oh, okay, they are including that standard here in this lesson and so forth. Another positive, I'll just show you, I guess, what a lesson looks like. There were 18 lessons. For this level, I think it's the only level that actually has this many extra books. These were the books that came with this language student book. The first one is a make-believe story of a mouse that goes through the experience of Noah building the boat and actually making it into the boat. It's like a grandfather mouse explaining to the little grandchildren the story from a mouse's perspective. It was interesting for my kids. They incorporated the story throughout the lessons. They'll tell you to read this page or look at these pages and ask questions about the pictures. Oh, and also they'll make them read like one sentence, or they'll include some of the sentences into the lessons. But on other lessons, they're just continuing on other things like teaching them phonics and having them write down things. A lot of copy work, a lot of asking questions, a lot of saying something, reading something to your child in order for them to like remember it. My kids, if I were to ask them if they wanted the next level, they both would say yes. Well, my daughter was the one that did this one. I'm getting ahead of myself because my son, he's going through, I think it's foundations. He's loving that one, and so I'll make another video about that one. But my daughter, she would definitely want to continue these lessons. Before I tell you why I'm choosing not to and the small negatives that I observed, which are not too huge, and that's why I'm saying maybe we won't use Master Books in the future. There is that possibility there still. So before I tell you those things, let me share the other book. So the other book is this one, and it's very engaging. Every page, what's that page going to be like? So this page opens up and you have like little books with information. In the lessons, it's optional to read it, but we would always read it. So like a map. This one talks about the Grand Canyon, and it ties into like Noah's Ark. It continues. Now it's a story of a little dinosaur and a little monkey, and they're learning about the Grand Canyon and about the evidence that there was a flood based off of the things they find in the Grand Canyon. And So the pictures are very engaging, and you only go through a few pages along the lessons as well. His little writings throughout. The little monkey is writing on his journal. And the last one, which is read on the last lesson, and you could just read it like the whole book one time. That's what was required in the lesson. The Door of Salvation by Ken Ham. This one, again, continuing the Noah's Ark theme. Now they're going to talk about how in Noah's Ark there was only one door to save them. They needed to go through that door in order to save them from the flood, from God's judgment. In the same way, Jesus is that door that saves us and we can go to heaven. And the fun thing about this book is having your child open each door to read what is on that page. It goes from Adam and Eve, and it has hints of other things in the Bible. The last one is an invitation to receive that gift that Jesus offers all, free entrance to heaven, so please don't stall. So having started to listen to some Christian apologetics videos, which if you haven't heard that term before, the term apologetics means giving a defense of the Christian faith. For example, some people may say, well, Christianity is false because of this or this. And so apologetics gives an answer to those things. So one of the topics that I had listened about regarding this is that the dinosaurs made it into Noah's Ark. So some Christians believe that the world is not that old. This curriculum, I think, indirectly teaches that, because my kids and I, we've always just learned about Noah's Ark, but never have there been pictures of dinosaurs entering Noah's Ark. Right away, that caught my daughter's attention and my attention, and it caused us to talk about it. So for example, right here, there's 2 other pages where they're dinosaurs. It's one of those topics that I suppose Christians are allowed to disagree on, but it is there. So I just wanted to mention that. I think the creators of these books, this curriculum, don't want kids to believe that the extinction of dinosaurs happened way before this. That was interesting. And then the other thing, in this book, there was a page where it talks about death. A lot of children's books, they talk about Adam and Eve, but they don't directly tell children. I feel like since this is for such little children, it might be too early to say something so clearly like that. I think it was scary. It's one of those topics that's very difficult to accept and to process, even for adults, but especially for little children this age, 6, 7 years old. That was the only negative thing. I had to talk to my daughter about our soul, our spirit, that's who we are, and that doesn't die, that goes to heaven. And so I felt like that was missing in that section, because it kind of just leaves it scary, reality, mortality. And then you have to get to the end of the book to hear about heaven. But I feel like there should have been more clarity. It should have been said in a lighter way. And of course, if you're a parent, you could always skip that page. Those were the only negative things about those books. As far as my own experience with my other curriculum choices, I had success with my daughter using other books to teach her how to read. This curriculum largely focuses on teaching them how to say certain blends, which is very important. But for whatever reason, I feel like there's a lot of guessing going on with children. There's a lot of memorizing expectations. For example here, this is what it typically looks when a new sound is being introduced, and then you read it, and then there's an activity where they have to figure out which blend goes where. And I felt like that was really difficult for my child. I feel like there's a lot of information here. So when you're trying to figure out what's the sound, it could be overwhelming and difficult. Obviously, like, it's easy to find, oh, it's this word, especially if you already know how to read. My daughter does, so she could easily just look at the picture and find the word, but I felt like that wasn't really helping her process the sound as much. I felt like it was mostly guessing work, as opposed to another book I have. It's called Alpha Phonics. They go through the sound and they give you like a list of words that have the same sound, so that's repetition, and I feel like that is more helpful, especially to like memorize it rather than this, personally. So a lot of reading the words, that was easy for my daughter, but like I said, she had those reading skills prior to this curriculum. And copy work, it was helpful because we didn't really have copy work activities last year. If we didn't have this, then we would have had to have found something to do that. But since this lesson had a lot of that, this was what we did for copy work. Also, this kind of lesson reminds me of when I was going to church as a little girl, and the teacher had a paper, and as I love my Bible school teachers. If they're watching this, I'm not saying they didn't do a great job, but what I would notice is that it was more engaging when teachers kind of went off the script and they just shared from their heart, or they had, like, you know, those felt characters that they would stick on that material. I felt that was more engaging than when teachers just go reading through it. The lessons here are like that, like you're on a script. It doesn't really give your child a visual aid. I guess it's good for students that learn by listening, but again, I'm not sure if that was the best way for my daughter to learn about punctuation, grammar. I really like the other book that I'm using to teach her grammar because it's less overwhelming. There's a lot more review, copy work as well, and figuring it out on her own. They give you like a sentence and you have to correct that sentence. Ultimately, the reason why I'm not going to get more master books on language this year is because I have other resources that I feel go more in depth than this, and that will be more effective for my kids. So it's one of those things where I know my kids are telling me they like it, but I think I know my kids a little better, and I think I've exposed myself to other resources enough to know that it would be best for us to go a different direction. I also have this other resource where it teaches children a lot of new vocabulary words, and that resource is scripted, but it's very interactive. So it has like their own student books and their own activities, and they're looking at the pictures as I'm reading. So if I am going to have to like do a lot of reading for one curriculum, then it's going to make it really difficult for me to do that other curriculum. So if I didn't want to use all the other ones and I wanted to just simplify homeschooling and have something that has a little bit of everything in one, then this would be a good resource. If you want to keep it simple, then this is a good resource. It goes with a lot of the standards requirements about asking your kids a lot of questions about what you're reading. But for my family, I think we need to do the resources that we really love, because they love the other books as well, especially the one of vocabulary, and we haven't been able to do it because these take up a lot of time. Sometimes we want to give our kids a lot of work because we want to challenge them a lot, but at the same time we have to remember that they're little and their attention span is much smaller than like an older kid, like a preteen, a teenagers, we have to respect their limits as well, and we don't want to overwhelm them, stress them out, or make them dread school. So for that reason, I think having the other books and this one is just too much. I think the most creative thing about this resource was these pages on each lesson. It came with a packet of blank pages where my daughter could fill in dictionary words, and she had to think about 1 or 2 words that describe that word. So she would have to find the G page and write the word gift, so more copy work, right? And then draw a picture next to it and write a definition. And since my daughter loves to draw and color, that was, I think, her favorite thing. It did take her a lot of time because she loves to like just engage with her drawing and do the details. And so I already knew like this was going to take her like 30 minutes to complete. This was probably the most fun activity of this book. And it's always nice when they include a certificate at the end of a book. It makes them feel so special and proud. Okay, so that is my honest opinion on Masterbook's Language Level 1 curriculum. So I pretty much recommend it for some moms, and I don't recommend it for other moms like myself that we want to use other resources and not just one resource for language arts. I like to include beginning readers books, so it could just be too much if we're doing one curriculum and then we're doing a bunch of other things as well. All right, so that's all I had to say about this. I'll see you on the next video. Bye.